U.S. policymakers face a catch-22 dilemma when considering how to deal with ISIS in Iraq. Past U.S. interventions in Iraq provided a recruiting boon for al-Qaeda. During the 1990s, when the U.S. was flying missions out of Saudi Arabia to enforce the no-fly zone in Iraq, and then after the U.S. invasion of Iraq in 2003, which really helped catalyze the birth and development of al-Qaeda in Iraq. And we don't want to repeat that experience again. On the other hand, if we go back just the last few years, we'll see that the hands-off approach taken by the U.S. government has given ISIS the time and space needed to consolidate control over a de facto state in Iraq and Syria. So it seems that there's risks to both approaches. And the challenge is to find the right balance, because given the growing strength of ISIS, doing nothing is no longer an option. The choice that policymakers face, however, is simplified by the fact that neither U.S. public opinion nor the Obama administration want a major U.S. military intervention in the Middle East again. So really, any U.S. military intervention is going to be limited in scope. But because of the nature of the conflict that we're dealing with, it's likely to be long-term in duration. The second point I wanted to make is that we can't deal with Iraq in isolation, because the region's numerous conflicts are increasingly linked and are rooted in issues of religious and political identity and legitimacy. And the best example of how conflicts are linked are those of Syria and Iraq. Iraq's civil war in the previous decade was stoked by Syria, and Syria's civil war since 2011 was stoked by actors in Iraq. And most recently, ISIS was able to use its safe haven in Syria as a springboard to capture territory throughout much of northern Iraq. In addition, I think it's important to mention that the mobilization of radical Muslims throughout the greater Middle East and beyond, and the fact that they're sending foreign fighters to fight in Iraq, provides the human kindling needed to fuel the civil war in Iraq and the regions of other conflicts for years to come. So this means several things. First, you can't address the ISIS threat in Iraq without addressing the ISIS threat in Syria. Secondly, you can't address the ISIS threat in Iraq and Syria without addressing the foreign fighter problem. And third, the U.S. really can't solve the region's problems because they're rooted in issues of religious and political identity and legitimacy. And this is a problem that can only be worked out among Muslims themselves. But that doesn't mean that the U.S. should not seek ways to advance its interests by averting or mitigating the negative developments and outcomes in Iraq, Syria, and the region.